What's up? It's your boy GimpZilla coming at you with another gaming strategy video. This week we are doing a Dungeon Master Tactics for the beginning adventure Lost Mine of Phandelver. Now, as with all my tactics videos, it's going to start with a short numeric review at the top, followed by three primary sections, first being my player experience within this module, followed by a series of quest hooks and story points that you're likely to experience within this module, and then finally will be a set of room highlights, must-see rooms that will really help this adventure come to life. So with that in mind, Lost Mine of Phandelver is much larger in scope than the previous modules I've reviewed on my channel. I am committed to just having one video out there that condenses the entire storyline into a manageable feature that you guys can reference through your preparation. With that in mind, if you want to see more detail, if you want to see me do a deeper dive into some specific sections of this module, make sure that your voice is heard in the comment section down below, as well as a like and subscribe for your small-time YouTube channel. So with that in mind, guys, let's dive right in. Now, to start the review off here, I would rate the Lost Mine of Phandelver a solid 9 out of 10. I do think that this is a absolute gem as far as a starting adventure goes, and I would encourage any new DM or even an experienced DM to take these pages on and at least give it a look over and see what you can extract from it. The module itself, the main points that really bring it to such a high rating, it has a very open sandbox structure. The storyline within this module starts at a very narrow scope, then switches into a wide dynamic and wide sandbox adventure, and then again condenses back down to a narrow story ending. So it's that narrow, wide, narrow feel that gives you a lot of room to create. Very good. The combat is as hard as you want it to be. And then it's also filled with a plethora of roleplay opportunities. So this module, above all others, I think is a very strong start to many adventures, and the storylines that you can get out and end this adventure with can lead into so many different adventures beyond just Phandalin. So with that in mind, we'll dive into a little more detail of my specific player experience. And the first thing I'd like to start looking at is the pre-made characters. Now, not every adventure group is going to adopt the pre-made characters. You know, every single person has their own special character. Everyone wants to make their artifice cleric and do their own thing in that regard. With that being said, even if your players do not accept the pre-made characters, they're still worth a look over. The background story of each character provides a little additional information about the surrounding lands of Phandalin that is not presented anywhere else in the module. Furthermore, if your characters are having a hard time getting a background going, these are great adventure hooks and great ways to tie them into the town of Phandalin. So top-notch pre-made characters. The only negative thing I would say about the pre-mades is each pre-made character has a contact or a confidant that they're going to find in Phandalin, which can make the beginning of this adventure a little difficult to run, because you're going to have 5 or 6 characters all wanting to go different directions. I want to talk to this guy, this guy, this guy, and they might be, deterred from finding a united front. Up next is the primary quest hook. The module presents just a single quest hook of escorting Gundren Rockseeker and his mining wares to the town of Phandalin. But if players are creative, I think that there are a number of ways to hook your characters in here. But my experience, the primary quest hook provided is very easy to get your players engaged with. And then also the module is wide enough that you're not going to be bogged down with just using that specific quest hook. There's other ways to get your players engaged. The sandbox adventure is huge in scope. I think that there's maybe 5 or 6 different side quests that the characters can take on. There's a lot of freedom for the characters, but at the same time, there is a strong overarching story that will keep your players engaged and give you some substance as the dungeon master that will allow you to kind of keep players on track. So I think it's just the right amount of sandbox. The next thing I'll say is, I don't want to spend too much time on the player experience, because with that open sandbox feature, with the multiple storylines that players can pursue, every individual story is going to be a little bit different. So for me to sit here and say exactly what happened in my story, yours can go completely a different direction. No matter kind of what direction they go, you're looking at about 4 to 8 sessions, roughly about a month or two of content from this module. I think that that's a positive point, that it gives you so much substance that you'll have, multiple sessions worth of content to go through here. Let's switch gears over to the story hooks and quest lines. I'm obviously going to focus in on the Gundren Escort. This is the main story hook that is written into the module. It is technically the only adventure hook that is presented into the module, and there are some shortcomings to this. I think that it's perfectly acceptable for a starting adventure to just say, hey, you start with a mission, you start with this escort quest. But what I want to point out to you guys here would be the specific text of the module. I'll read it directly here. Gundren was clearly excited and more than a little secretive about his reasonings for the trip, saying only that he and his brothers had found something big. And that is going to be the biggest deterrent of this quest hook. There are absolutely opportunities throughout this module that your player characters may never even meet Gundren. There's a possibility that Gundren will die, Sildar will die, all of the Dwarven brothers die. If the player characters are just hooked that Gundren found something big, there's an opportunity for them to completely miss the mines, completely miss the main story hook of this module. If that were to happen, then your player characters are just going to be kind of roaming the world, wondering what to do, and you're going to have to go to like a homebrew setting or switch the module much sooner than what you were expecting. I would recommend that characters learn that the Rockseeker brothers had discovered a mine specifically. I'm not saying to disclose the location of the mine. I'm not saying anything more than the fact that they were looking for a mine with riches, and having that little nugget in the back of their minds will really help keep the story moving forward. The other quest hook that I would use is the Missing Wizard, and the Missing Wizard is a story hook that will be presented to your players after they've reached Phandalin, and most likely given by Sildar Hallwinter, who I will go into a little more detail over in the story section. The Missing Wizard leads to a small subplot and sub-story within the major storylines of the module, and I think it is another strong hook that will keep your players engaged early and give them a clear direction on what they should be doing in town. So the Missing Wizard is another story hook that I would try and get in my players' hands as soon as possible. Now, with that in mind, let's shift gears to the main story. As stated, the mine location is an absolute crux of this module. I think it is the main storyline that your players should be pursuing. Where is the location of this mine? That is the main question that you want your players asking, and discovering and exploring and trying to get the details and the location of this mine, trying to understand what was in this mine. It'll give your characters clear direction throughout the story, and a specific direction to follow, even when they're struggling to understand exactly what they should be doing. They should understand that their ultimate goal is discovering this mine. Up next is the Areno and Glassstaff sub-story that I hinted at with the Missing Wizard. Sildar Hallwinter is going to be the primary quest giver for this mission, but players can also pick this up before they leave Neverwinter, and that is the story of Arano Albrecht, aka Glassstaff. If players go into this mission with the vague description of this wonderful wizard Arano had disappeared about a month prior, we need to discover where he was. There's also multiple hints that there was a wizard who was taken by the Red Brand clan. It'll keep your mission and your storyline very pointed towards the Red Brand hideout, which is another key location throughout this module. So I think that providing this nice little sub-story in the early parts of your adventure, it feels really good for your players to kind of unmask him and discover exactly who he is, and possibly more of his storyline on why he's working for the Black Spider later on in the dungeon. But Arano Albrecht, that name needs to be stated to your characters early. Players should, again, have that question in the back of their mind of where is this guy? We need to rescue him. He must be in danger. And the reality is the reveal of Arano working with Black Spider, having taken over the Red Brand clan. And the final story point here is the Forge of Spells. And as your players, again, pursue the mine location, as your players unmask Glassstaff and, get information that he has kidnapped Gundren Rockseeker, they're going to be more and more engaged with what is this Forge of Spells, what's going on there specifically. The storyline for the Forge of Spells, just to kind of give you guys the bigger picture of the module, is 500 years prior, this mine was occupied by dwarves. They had built a magical forge to craft their weapons in. The Rockseeker brothers have recently unveiled the location of this secret forge. Now, I have Black Spider and I also have Mormesk listed as kind of subplots to the Forge of Spells. And I'll start with Mormesk. He is a evil wizard at this point, driven mad. He's a ghost, essentially, in the final location and the climax of this module. And Mormesk is something that you might want to hint at sooner. You might want to drop like maybe a book written by him, or some plot points so that players kind of understand what happened 500 years prior. Mormesk is controlling all of the undead creatures that are within the final dungeon, and that includes multiple ghouls. It includes a flame skull, and Mormesk is essentially there to protect the final dungeon delve. So hinting and foreshadowing this character would be a very positive thing, and then it's a cool roleplay opportunity in that final dungeon. So Mormesk is a good character you guys should definitely do some reading on. And then up next would be Black Spider. Black Spider is a drow elf who essentially caught wind of the Rockseeker brothers and their discovery, and then he has essentially kidnapped Gundren. He's kidnapped the two brothers as well, in hopes of kind of claiming the Forge of Spells for himself. So again, a very evil character. He has his goals in mind, and the drow themselves as a race are extremely hard-headed, with no real opportunities to negotiate with them. Module as written. So the Forge of Spells would be the climax of the dungeon. If you run the module as written, the module thinks that you're even going to kill Black Spider before you locate the Forge of Spells completely. To take it one step further, written in the module, Black Spider has not discovered the Forge of Spells yet. He's simply occupying the Wave Echo Cavern, and trying to figure out how to dismantle all of the undead that are blocking his way. Player characters have a chance to kind of get into the Forge of Spells untouched for centuries, and you should play up the fact that this thing has, again, been lost to time, and play up the fact that Black Spider is killing the dwarves, and he is pursuing the player characters to keep this Forge of Spells a secret. He does not want it being revealed that this magical forge is coming back to light after 500 years. He wants to keep it to himself. He wants to manufacture the weapons himself for drow reasons, right? Is that enough? Drow reasons. All right, and with that, let's switch over to the next slide, and I built something that's going to help us kind of unravel the storyline of this module. So what I've made here is a story web of all of the linking quests and all of the linking areas here. And as I was building this, I started out saying, oh, this will be so simple. Like if I just, draw up the storylines and connect the dots, like it'll be so obvious on how player characters move through this module. And then about 40 connecting lines later, I realized like, okay, this is a big scope module, and might need a little explanation. And the first thing I would point out on this slide is that the Phandalin escort, the main story hook for this module, can go a number of different ways. The primary story would like to see the player characters end up in Cragmaw Hideout. It would like to see the player characters rescuing Sildar and essentially getting Sildar to join their side. However, there are opportunities within this story that the goblins win. At which point they're going to leave the characters, naked and afraid on the road, no gear, no armor, no gold. At which point it'd be pretty silly for them to continue pursuing into Cragmaw Hideout with just their fists. So there are opportunities for players to just go directly from the Phandalin escort into town, at which point they're going to meet a series of NPCs that will kind of lead to the greater adventure. The next thing I want to note is that Sildar, Hallwinter, and the Lord's Alliance, written into the module, there is an opportunity for this man to just outright die. And as stated in my adventure hook section, again, if Sildar dies, the player characters are going to lose a lot of information on Gundren Rockseeker. They're not going to know that he was taken to Cragmaw Castle, and then Sildar also knows that Gundren had the idea of this Wave Echo Cave. So if Sildar dies, or if player characters don't pursue Cragmaw Hideout, you completely lose the mine location. That's the main fail state for dropping that storyline. As a dungeon master, Sildar Hallwinter is essentially the vanilla way through this module. He doesn't know the location of Cragmaw Castle. He doesn't know the location of Wave Echo Cave. And then that is what's going to send players off on the side quest to try and figure out exactly kind of where this cave is located. The next thing I would note on this module are the different quest providers within the town of Phandalin. Each one is presented with a specific faction. You have the Lord's Alliance, the Zentarium, Order of the Gauntlet, Emerald Clave, the Harpers. What I've listed for each of these factions is their primary emotion as written into the module. So Sildar and the Lord's Alliance specifically want security amongst the lands. They want to essentially rid all threats from the area. The townsfolk are annoyed at this point, and you can see that their quest arrow is going to point directly to the Red Brand hideout. Again, the Red Brands have been taxing the locals. They've been taking the goods from the general store and are essentially unliked in the town. And many townsfolk want the Red Brands dealt with. Moving down, you have the Zentarium, who seek power above all else. I thought Halea's storyline was rather interesting. She hires the characters to get rid of the leader of the Red Brands with intentions of going in and kind of taking over the infrastructure that's in place. She's not necessarily a good character, and in the end of the module, will end up kind of converting on the characters. And then it's really up to your player characters here, right? So if you have like a cleric and a priest and a paladin, then you're probably going to want to pursue like Order of the Gauntlet. They're kind of the righteous claim, or possibly the Harpers, who are headed by Sister Gorele and the local church. Likewise, the Emerald Enclave is a perfect location for the ranger and druid type characters. This is a faction that wants to hold the balance of nature above all else. Figure out what backgrounds your players have, potentially what their interest is that they might want to pursue, and then I would start introducing these characters. So you don't want them going in and having like 6 names that they want to talk to, and a lot of these arrows obviously can be moved around. You can have multiple people pointing to one location if that's the way that you want to run it as the Dungeon Master. That would be the next thing to note, is that the Red Brand hideout is an absolute story crutch here. More than half of the NPCs that are written into the module will point the characters to the Red Brand hideout. So that is kind of the midway arc for the storyline, is that at some point in the module, players are going to learn of Tassadar Manor, and they are going to enter and eradicate the Red Brand gang. All right, and then just moving through the web, you can also see the story points written in red on what's kind of discovered at each location. And just to piggyback on how vital it is to get your characters in the Red Brand hideout, that's going to be their first exposure to the Forge of Spells. Again, Sildar might advise the characters that the Rockseeker brothers found the Wave Echo Cave, but he doesn't know what's inside. He doesn't know what's going on there. The Red Brand hideout will provide information on the Forge of Spells, and it'll also allude to Black Spider, which is going to kind of reinvigorate the back half of this module. They discover that this cave exists, and they also discover on why it's important and why they want to find it themselves. After they discover kind of what's going on through the Red Brand hideout, the story becomes a mission of, okay, now we need to find it. We have to get more information on it. And that's where the NPCs in the village are really going to come to life. They're going to point to, a druid at Thunder Tree who can help them locate it. Or there's a banshee that haunts this place called Agatha's Lair, and if you can, approach the banshee and settle it, she might have information on Wave Echo Cave. How do your players eventually get the information and the location of Wave Echo Cave? The little asterisk next to the location information is associated with the key down in the bottom right, and you might have already figured it out. But each one of these locations, Thunder Tree, Old Owl Well, Agatha's Lair, all of these in the module as written provide location information for either Cragmaw Castle or Wave Echo Cave. It could be a series of these side quests that ultimately lead to Wave Echo Cave. In my specific adventure, I had my characters go to the Red Brand hideout. They got the information from Thunder Tree that pointed them to Cragmaw Castle, where they went and they discovered Gundren, and then Gundren finally revealed the location of Wave Echo Cave. So, take a look at this kind of spreadsheet, see how they all connect here, and figure out, specifically what storylines that you want to tell in this module, and what NPCs that you want to do the legwork for, and you want to flesh out. So that you can really make this adventure come to life, because again, you can really mix and match so many of these different options, and it presents just a really strong, beautiful module for the player characters. And then the piece that I want to end kind of the storylines with is what is your next adventure after Phandalin, right? And if you have this information in mind, it'll really help you shape out kind of what side missions are best for your characters, what NPCs, what monsters that you really want to play up in your module, and it'll lead to kind of the future and really let you flesh out a full campaign that extends well past level 4 or 5 that Phandalin caps out at. So I'll just quickly run through these, because again, there's so many different directions that Dungeon Masters can take this. You have the Drow Elves, which is going to connect very nicely into Out of the Abyss, and also Against the Giants, uncovering kind of the origin of the Drow Elves. You have the Dragon and the Dragon Cult, which can play into Tyranny of Dragons or Dragon of Icespire Peak. Icespire Peak specifically is even marked on the Overland map, so if you do expose that full map to your player characters, they might naturally want to go and pursue this Icespire Peak and kind of see what's there. Furthermore, you got Twig Blights, which are associated with Sunless Citadel and Curse of Strahd. You have Necromancer Cost, who is written into the module as a Thayan Necromancer, so boom, plays perfect into Dead and Thay. And then the actual kind of next adventure presented in the module itself is a mysterious map that's found in Wave Echo Cavern, and specifically Forge of Fury and Hidden Shrine of Tomoe-chan start their adventures off with a mysterious map. So again, there's so many different directions that you can run with this module. I just took the time to list a few, and I'm absolutely interested in hearing what you guys plan to run after Phandelver. So again, take an opportunity, like the video, leave a comment down below on what you plan to run after Lost Mines of Phandelver. All right, and then the last section here, as always, is the room highlights. This module was, again, much bigger in scope than the prior modules that I've reviewed on this channel. And because of that, I simply couldn't go through every single dungeon map line by line. I feel like I would either be, missing critical rooms that are really going to help you guys out, or, end up with like a 90-minute video that, according to my YouTube statistics, I can't entertain you that long for that long of a video. So what I have here is just a short montage. We're going to go through each important dungeon map with some handwritten notes on specifically what's in these rooms. I would encourage all dungeon masters to give these rooms a second look. Make sure you are extracting as many of the little details as you can, because again, it's the more details and the more you understand kind of the anatomy of these dungeons and how they operate, the better experience you're going to provide for your players. So sit back, enjoy the short montage, take some notes, double check your book, and at that point, guys, you have all the pieces that you need to run a successful Lost Mines of Phandelver. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and as always, I will see you all next time.